It's a cold, stormy night just off the coast of Florida in 1622. A Spanish cargo ship full of gold and silver is desperately trying to make its way back to Spain. But as it passes through the Straits of Florida, it sails directly into a hurricane. Its masts are torn apart, its rudder gets ripped off by the waves, and within minutes, the atoche is brought down. According to records, at least $500 million worth of treasure went down that night, and its location eventually became a complete mystery. But more than 3 centuries later, after sitting at the bottom of the ocean, the motherlode of all treasure was finally discovered, and it proved to be more valuable than ever imagined. We modeled the entire thing to show you how one man and his team of DIY treasure hunters spent decades searching for the ship, and how their genius engineering and an old document eventually led them to the most valuable shipwreck in history. When the atoche went down that fateful evening, it ended up on a shallow reef in the Florida Keys, a 200-mile stretch of tiny islands. At the time, the location of the ship was known, but just a few weeks later, a second hurricane ripped the ship apart, leaving a trail of debris across the ocean floor. The location of the atoche seemed to be lost forever, but records of its treasure were never forgotten. According to its cargo manifest, it was holding 150 gold bars, 1,000 silver bars, and more than 50 chests full of coins. All in all, the treasure would be worth at least $500 million today. All someone had to do was find it. That's where American treasure hunter Mel Fisher came in. He had spent his entire life diving, and along with his wife, ran a diving school in California, teaching more than 60,000 people how to dive. With the allure of the atoche sitting in the Florida Keys, Mel and his family moved across the country in search for its treasure. With little more than a boat and some metal detectors, they began their search in an area called the Matecumbe Keys, which had been mentioned in several documents. But after a year of searching and more than 100,000 miles covered, they hadn't found a single thing. To many, finding the atoche in this vast expanse of ocean was an impossible task. But Mel had a secret weapon: historian Eugene Lyon. In order to learn more about where the atoche sank, he went to the Spanish archives in Seville and came across this document. Dated just 4 years after the ship went down, it mentioned that a search had taken place in an area called the Marquesas Keys, which was more than 100 miles from where Mel was searching. Mel and his crew instantly moved their boat and started searching in this new location. But the divers were now searching in deeper water, and they had one huge problem: visibility. Although the water was clear on the surface, at the bottom, the divers could barely see their own hands. And so Mel came up with a genius yet simple solution. He attached 2 large tubes to his boat that could be lowered down in front of the propellers. These would redirect the clear water from the surface and shoot it down to the bottom where the divers were searching. Not only did this clear up the muddy waters perfectly, it had the added benefit of digging a big hole and revealing whatever was buried underneath the sand. Then, one day in 1971, the sand cleared and revealed an enormous anchor. Although it wasn't a piece of treasure, it was their first clue that perhaps the real thing wasn't far away. More artifacts started to show up, like cups, swords, cannonballs, and iron nails used to hold the ship together. To keep track of everything, they started building a map of circles, showing where each piece of treasure had been found. After a while, a clear line started to appear on the map, and they came to the conclusion that the atoche's motherlode must lie somewhere along this line. Then, while searching near the bottom of the line, a diver came across something really special: an early version of the Opera web browser. Just kidding. Opera now presents its latest evolution of web browsing, Opera R2. With new features like split screening, fully customizable themes, and a whole new tab system, Opera is the most modern browsing experience available. In order to keep track of what you're working on, tab islands automatically group your tabs by context, and they can be expanded or collapsed to save space. And with tab traces, it adds this dark underscore to your most recently visited tab. In order to find the atoche, the crew were following a trail of artifacts that seemed to be leading them to the motherlode of all treasure. But After 2 years of searching the line, the crew had failed to make any valuable discoveries. Mel was running out of money fast, and if he didn't find some treasure soon, he'd have no way of funding the search. But then, in 1973, just a few hundred feet away from the anchor, the crew came across a stash of silver coins and 3 huge silver bars. This find alone was worth well over $100,000, but it wasn't clear if it was from the atoche or its sister ship, which had also gone down that night. And so they went back to the ship's cargo manifest. Every single piece of gold and silver was recorded in this document, along with their exact weight and serial number. By comparing the engravings on the silver bars to the document, they confirmed that the treasure trail they were following really was from the atoche. The crew began systematically cleaning the coins using electrolysis and selling them off to make money. Mel and his crew were back in business. With this influx of cash, the crew set out to find more treasure, armed with new sonar detecting technology. But just as they were starting